Welcome to Fierce Fit Feminine and Other F Words, a place for women in business to learn more about health, beauty, styling, and showing up on camera for your business with confidence so that you can have more impact and more income. I'm Christine Brunelli, chiropractor and former beauty salon owner turned certified image consultant, helping you glow from the inside out. And today, if you're an introverted friend and introverted listener, this episode is going to knock your socks off. My guest, Stacey Chazin, is awesome. I had such a fun conversation with her. I think you're going to love it. I am her 100% opposite because I'm an extrovert. She is going to help you feel confident by tapping into your superpowers as an introvert so that you have more influence and more recognition for your talents and gifts in your place of work. We did not get to be on camera for this episode because I just moved into my new home and my studio wasn't ready, but I would love for you to have a listen. She is taking the narrative on introversion and flipping the story because she grappled with societal expectations that favored extroversion in society in general and in her workplace. She underwent a transformation, and instead of conforming to those pressures, she embraced her introverted qualities and turned them into assets that allowed her to thrive both professionally and personally. Today, Stacey is a fervent advocate and coach for you, the introverts. She draws on her extensive corporate and nonprofit experience. She has a master's in development and leadership, and she's certified in the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. I can't wait for you to meet her. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Stacey, thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited. You are my first ever with over 100 episodes. Gosh, I don't even know how many there are. I've never had someone who helps introverts get recognized at work, tap into their talents, or any of that. You're my very first one, and I'm so excited because I'm the extrovert over here who's bouncing off the walls when I'm in a room of people, and this is going to be amazing. I'm going to learn a lot from you, and I think my audience is going to love hearing from you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I'm so excited as well. I love to speak with extroverted podcast hosts because it's so interesting. I learn because I learn about perceptions that you have as an extrovert about who we are as introverts. So maybe I'll tell some of those today. And
well, you know what? I wonder how many introverts there are that don't know they're introverts. Like, I wonder that. And how did you even come to figure out, like, this is my superpower? How did that all start?
Yeah. So first, you wonder how many people don't realize they're introverts. I think, and we can talk about this a little bit, is there are so many misperceptions about what it means to be introverted. And that includes misperceptions we have about ourselves. So I've heard people say, oh, I'm not an introvert, I like people. Or I'm not an introvert, I have a whole bunch of friends. And those things are not mutually exclusive. So we can dive into that a little. But I will say how I discovered I was an introvert. Really, I got messages probably dating back to when I was in preschool. When I really think about it, that when we're little, when we start socializing or socialize differently, we get messages from our parents, from our teachers that socializing more, playing with more kids, not wanting to go off and be on our own, that being more social is better. And that if we're the kind of kid who likes to build a tower of blocks on our own, or a teenager who likes to stay home on a Saturday night and read a book, or do a crossword puzzle or watch a movie, that is somehow less than the kids, the adults, the people in this world who like to be social.
Oh, you're tapping into some of my childhood memories of the kids that didn't go out and do the social things. I mean, I was the one that, and by the way, as an extrovert, I don't keep a huge circle of people around me. That's really interesting. Because I think a lot of extroverts probably think, it's just the people that energize me. It's the more people I'm energized, but my circle is pretty tight, right? So I don't have like this giant flock of female friends, right? But right. I do like to be in large groups. It's really interesting. And before we dive into how you're going to help introverts tap into their superpowers, and I help women get confident on camera, and so I think a lot of women think they need to be an extrovert and this big, loud personality. And I really love to dial it into who They are innately. And so I think it's going to be really fun for everybody to hear how you're going to tie that all together.
Oh,
Would
yeah.
love you to start out by just what are some of the challenges introverts face for being recognized for their strengths, their talents, and contributions at work where they get prevented from being promoted? Or maybe even if they're self employed like me, if they're trying to get themselves out there, maybe where they're blocking themselves, they're holding themselves back. What are some of the things that are common for introverts? Because I don't know this. I would love to learn.
Yeah, and I'll answer the two parts of your question, drawing from my experiences. One as someone who worked for decades in corporate and nonprofit spaces and organizations, and
Okay.
then the second part as an entrepreneur who's introverted and trying to grow a business. So the first part, when we're thinking about working for an organization, and what I'm going to talk about really applies to whether you're working in person, which when I worked for an organization, we all used to do that, or most of us did, or if you're working hybrid or completely in a virtual setting. And the biggest overarching answer to your question is that most workplaces and corporate cultures are designed with extroverts in mind,
Mm.
meaning that you're rewarded for coming up with ideas quickly. You are recognized when you collaborate more than when you work on your own. You have an expectation on you to, in some cases, have back-to-back-to-back meetings during a workday, whether it's on Zoom or in person, without recognition of the need that you need a break to recharge. Because the defining difference between introverts and extroverts is that introverts tend to be fueled and energized by time spent alone and
Okay.
in their own thoughts or in a small group, whereas extroverts gain their energy from engaging with other people frequently, more people, a greater group of people, and they don't need those breaks as much.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
for
that's the
sure.
big piece of it. And then a lot of the typical traits that corporate America or nonprofit America associates with leadership are really extroverted traits. So, if you think about someone who loves to be engaging with people all the time, is really comfortable standing at the front of the room, speaking extemporaneously, someone who loves to work on and lead teams, these are all extroverted type qualities. And when introverts, we produce work that is just as high quality, just as good, just as creative, whatever it is the field you're working in. We just need to do it differently in order to do it that well. And that means having the time to recharge, having at least a balance of group work and individual work,
Mm.
um, having the opportunity to think through ideas, think through challenges before we put forth solutions.
Okay. So there's a misnomer that introverts aren't great public speakers, but I think we see a lot of introverts that are out there leading meetings. In politics, there's introverts. In
Yes.
Hollywood, huge. Hollywood's filled with introverts. They're on the big screen. And so if there's anybody out there that says, I feel the pull, like I want to be that person that can be in front and speak,
Hmm.
how do they, I'm just going to ask questions I think my listeners are going to want to know. How do they get themselves from, oh, I need time to get myself ready and hyped, to just being that person that can be out there and maybe be a voice that would be recognized? Like, is that something that you can do right away? Is it a process? Like, what does an introvert need to do to feel ready and confident and be recognized for that?
It's the thing that you said just at the beginning of that question. When the introvert says, "Oh, I need time to get ready and get hyped," take that time.
Oh,
So that is to say, you want to tap into your introverted strengths, and we all have them. Anyone who's an introvert, there are typical strengths that you're going to have either all or a subset of, and you want to tap into those strengths. And I'm going to tell you what some of those are that actually set introverts up to be really powerful, persuasive public speakers.
all right. That's going to lead me into my next question. I was going to say, what is the innate quality or strength that an introvert has that can set her up to be effective, to be inspirational, to be successful?
Okay.
What do you
Few
have?
things. First of all, when you're doing a big presentation, whether it's in front of a board or you're in a at a conference in front of 500 people, typically you are not going to be asked to do this presentation on the fly. You're going to have time to prepare. So that means time to think through your talking points, collect your data, collect your stories, and pull it all together in a way that's going to be most persuasive. So that's the first thing. Another thing, introverts tend to be very good storytellers, in part because many of us are voracious readers. So we've been reading the stories our whole life. We tend to be really good at telling them, which really comes in handy when we tell stories about ourselves in our presentations. Because as introverts, we're a little hard to get to know. It takes us a little while to warm up. And so one of the misperceptions is that we're aloof, we're not friendly, and that's because it takes us a little bit to bring the wall down and let people see who we are. So we're able to do that when we can tell stories in our presentations.
Mm.
Another thing we can do, or another thing that energizes, I will say, is that when you're up on the stage, you're behind a podium, or you're walking across the stage delivering your talk, you don't have to engage in small talk. Because small talk is something that introverts, myself included, do not tend to enjoy. So it's a very controlled environment for you to be able to use your powerful communication, your powerful storytelling. You've gotten your data together and you've mapped out. We tend to be very good at building arguments for whatever it is. If there's whatever the thesis is of your presentation, you're able to tap into those strengths to tell the story in an engaging, impactful, and memorable way.
Oh, that's so good. I am self-reflecting, like probably my listeners are right now, thinking to myself, like I said, I'm an extrovert. I've done all the Myers-Briggs. I've done the, enneagrams. I've done all of it. And I'll get into that in a minute, but I don't like small talk. I don't even like when I go through a Starbucks line and they say, "What's on your agenda today?" I'm like, I don't know you. I just want my coffee.
Oh my gosh.
Alone. And I am an extrovert. So I think I can blur the lines a little bit, even though I don't know if you use Myers-Briggs. I am an ENFP, which is, I think that's the visionary. That's the one that's like, woo. And then I get I'm a good starter. I'm not a good person I get the vision and I get things rolling, and then I need the implementers. Right. So I know my weaknesses and my strengths, but the small talk kills me. I am not that chit chat. I can do it for a little tiny bit, and after that I'm done. So two things so we can blur the line. Am I right with that? And is this Myers-Briggs thing accurate? I just threw that out there. I'm curious.
Yeah, so I'll say you and I would work very well together because we're polar opposites. My profile is ISTJ, so introverted, sensing, thinking, and judging.
Okay.
And so that's different. That's the opposite of yours. And for those listeners of yours who are not familiar with Myers-Briggs or MBTI, it's the world's most commonly used personality assessment. And I'm actually certified in Myers-Briggs, so I use that with my coaching clients.
Amazing.
And the first time I took it, I think it was about 15 years ago, when I was working for a nonprofit, we all had the opportunity to take it. And it looks at how you give and get energy from the world, how you take in information, how you make decisions, and how you interact with the world. So are you a planner, or are you more spontaneous? Mm-hmm. For the record, you're the spontaneous one. I'm not. And when I read my report, I remember thinking it was like a window to my soul, because it's not just your individual letters, but how those letters interact. Mm-hmm. Okay. And what they mean, and I think this is going to answer your question, is they're all preferences. They're not absolutes, and they show up differently in different situations. And so I'll give you an example. The way I teach what the preferences are is I ask my coaching clients I say, pick up a pen in your dominant hand. So they go ahead and do that. And I say, okay, go ahead and sign your name. They do it. And I say, how did that feel to you? And they'll say things like, oh, it was mindless. Like I didn't even think about it. It was easy, comfortable. And I say, okay, now put the pen in your other hand and sign your name. So they do that. It typically takes a little longer. And I say, what was that experience like? How did that feel? And they use words like awkward, uncomfortable. Like I was able to do it, but it didn't come out as well as when I used my other hand. That's what it's like if your preference through Myers-Briggs is introverted. It doesn't mean that you can't act in extroverted ways. And it also means that there are going to be some situations where you are more comfortable acting more extroverted, and vice versa, right? So I'm thinking about your Starbucks example, right? You don't need the Starbucks lady to know what your day is like, right? That's not a space where you feel inclined to engage and build relationship. So you
Right.
had a negative reaction to it. I would have the same reaction, by the way.
Okay.
Right. Right. It also means, for example, when we think about, let's think about networking. Right? Networking is typically something that makes an introvert want to run for the hills, run for the door. But there are ways that we can do it that are controlled and that reflect our introverted strengths, which is what I focus on in my coaching business. I focus on helping people identify their positive core, which is essentially the best of who you are, all the things that make you up, all the things that make you the best of who you are. Like you're empathetic, you're energetic, you're a good writer, anything like that. And the idea is, how can you do all these things you need to do in your professional life or in your, or even in your personal life, but you do them in ways that use your positive core.
Mm.
And if I can give you an example, let's talk about networking, right? People usually think about networking as, I need to go into this cocktail party or this conference room and collect 50 business cards. And to me, that makes me sweat. Like I would, sooner poke my eyes out than do something like that. So what I do is, here's how you can do it as an introvert. What I say is, think about how many days you have at a conference you're going to, right? Let's say it's a 3-day conference.
Okay.
Each day that you're at that conference, you want to target 3 people that you want to meet. Mm-hmm. So typically you'll be able to see on a conference app, you'll be able to see the registration list. So you find 9 people who you want to meet when you're at this conference. Do some due diligence, do some preparation, with which introverts are very good at. Okay. So look at their LinkedIn profile, go to their website, identify what is it that you want to get out of the conversations you have with each of these people, and write a prompt for yourself. So it could be that you want to get advice from them. You want to ask them about a paper they published. Maybe you want a job with their company.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
Right? And you check it off your list. When you get through 3 people in one day, you're done. Anyone else is icing on the cake, but you give yourself that sense of accomplishment because you've met your goal. And chances are, because it was only 3 people that day, you're going to have had the opportunity to go deeper in the conversations than you would have if you met 50 people.
That is what I was just going to say. So because you hate small talk and chit chat, the 50 people is overwhelming, but you can literally go with a purpose. I'm not just saying, hey, what do you do? Where are you located? How can we work together and collab or any network? You are literally going with a question that's going to take the conversation somewhere. So you thrive in purposeful conversation is what I'm hearing. Like this is, so for networking, that's awesome. And if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're like, I need to network, how about online? How do we do it online? What is that?
And that's a great way. That's so introvert aligned. Right. You use LinkedIn. Go onto LinkedIn and you search for people. Let's say you're looking for a new job in a particular field, or a new job in your same field, but at a higher level. You can search on LinkedIn for people who work in that space. And what I do whenever I'm doing something like that is I set the filter. So I'm looking for someone who is either a first degree connection. So that's someone I have a direct contact with, or a second degree, which means someone I'm connected with, or at least one person I'm connected with, is connected with them, which gives you an opportunity to ask your common contact, if you're comfortable, to make an introduction for you. Or you could say, hey, I see that we both know so-and-so. I worked with her here. I wonder, would you be interested in connecting? And could we chat on Zoom?
Okay.
And if you're not quite even ready for the Zoom, you could just make it electronic to start with. I want to introduce myself. This is what I do. If you're ever interested in talking, blah, blah, blah. I'd love to hear about X, Y, or Z.
As an introvert, do you find that online is easier work for you than face-to-face in person?
Is it easier for me to network?
Yeah. Is it easier for you just to feel like you're at home? Like for me, I sold, and I'm asking from a selfish reason. I sold my brick and mortars during the pandemic. So I had 2. We had 2 businesses. I had a chiropractor, right? That office got sold. And then my beauty salon, which was probably my favorite thing I've ever done because it was filled and lively and entertaining.
Yeah.
I shifted to online with the intent. The plan is to get back out into brick and mortar in the local community, because I got myself online and I feel so isolated. And so it's hard. It's not my jam. I have to work really hard to feel connected. So is that an introvert extrovert thing? Is it because I feel better in person? Would you say that's a diagnosis? Like I need that in-person interaction? Or what does that
Yeah.
look like for, let's just say it's the other way around. If you're an introvert and you're online and you're forced to get into the world in person, in the HR world or the corporate world, is that harder for an introvert to go that way? Is that an introvert extrovert thing, or is it just a preference?
I would say generally, yes, it's an introvert extrovert thing with the
Okay.
caveat that everyone is unique. So it's going to be more so or less so for some introverts and some extroverts. And for me, yes, working from home and engaging with people on Zoom or online is a more comfortable space
Okay.
than being in an office every day or being in an office 3 days a week. However, what I've noticed, so I was working remotely even before COVID.
Okay.
Since 2018, I was fully remote. But I would say maybe 6 times a year, I traveled to a conference where I generally saw the same people. I had professional friendships and even not professional, real actual friends who I made through work. And I didn't realize until COVID hit and all those conferences shut down, how much I needed that.
Oh,
That I needed those occasional in-person interactions to fuel me. And without them, um, I started to feel isolated. And so I searched now because some of the conferences I used to go to literally don't happen anymore.
yeah.
I try to find a conference, some type of in-person event to go to at least quarterly,
Okay.
because I need that. I do need that human interaction. And uh, you and I are on Zoom right now, and it's probably like a 6 by 6 square box, but we're often in meetings where it's a 1 by 1 and you're
Yeah.
looking at the little faces. And that's just, I don't think that's healthy for that to be your only form of human interaction. At least it doesn't serve me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. And, on the flip side, like you need that quarterly interaction. I do need time alone to like, okay, recharge. It's not that I never need alone time. So as the extrovert, I think it's important that we take it. We're not good at taking it.
Yeah.
A lot of us aren't good at it, but I do find that I really appreciate that. Like, I'm done. I'm done. And I have a 2-year-old granddaughter who just says, I done for everything. And my daughter and I looked at each other and I said, that's my new sentence. I done. I done. Like, and then I hit that point where, okay, I'm done. I just need it. And I need that getaway. And for me, like a vacation alone in a cabin in the mountains sounds terrible,
Mhm.
terrible. Where a lot of my friends would be like, give me that time.
Oh,
But if
yeah.
I could have 6 hours in the cabin, I would be really productive in getting like recharged on those times. But I think for you to point out how an extrovert needs time for you, you're a pretty strong introvert, rather. An introvert needs time to get to in-person conferences. I think that we put ourselves in a box too much. I'm hearing that. I'm feeling like we feel like I'm an introvert. I should behave this way. This is the only job I should ever do because I'm always behind the scenes. And that's not true. That's just not true. And so,
Yeah. That's a great way of saying it. Yeah.
yeah. And I feel like there are probably some steps that an introvert could take, like starting right now, where they could get themselves out there and more seen and more visible and rewarded and promoted, or anything that wherever they are in their work, there's some things that they could start doing, but it doesn't have to necessarily look like an extrovert, right? It's just an introverted way of being recognized. So let me just say, let's say I'm the extroverted boss.
Hmm.
And you work for me and you want a more forward role, you want to be promoted, and I'm recognizing all the people that come up to me with quick ideas and we're popping in a meeting. How are you as an introvert going to position yourself to where you get my attention so that I would be like, hey, she's got great ideas, I think this could work? What would
Hmm.
you do?
Um, I'm going to answer your question, but first I just have to say you've so hit the nail on the head, right? We put ourselves in boxes and other people put us in boxes. So it's not just that we have these self-limiting thoughts that lead us to say, oh, I'm never going to be a leader or I'm not going to ask to get that role. But to your point, your boss is now seeing you. They often put you in a box and they say, well, I can tell she's introverted or she's not a quick thinker. They think I'm not a quick thinker,
Right.
and they're not cut out for leadership. So there's a range of things you can do. From the most explicit way to do it, and one of the things that I love to recommend is anytime a team comes together for the first time, whether it's forming for the first time or coming together around a new project, I love the idea of going around the table and having each person tell the rest of the group, what is it that you need to be most successful on this team? Or how can the other people around the table best support you? And that's a wonderful thing, not just for introverts, for extroverts too. You want to know what is it that you need to be your best. And for an introvert, that could be, I need a balance of collaborative work time and individual work time.
Mhm.
Or I'll give you my best ideas if I have a chance to sit and think with them for a bit, and then respond in writing, or to meet with you one-on-one and give you my ideas. Or even I need to have an agenda before a meeting so that I can prepare and I can think about how I want to weigh in. And really, that's a best practice, whether you're an introvert or extrovert. Sharing meeting agendas in advance is something everyone should be doing.
Yeah.
So that's one thing you could share with the group. You can also sit down with your manager. And this is something either the introvert can do, or I encourage managers to ask this question: how can I best support you? What do you need from me to be most successful in this role and to feel most fulfilled? And to the extent that the introverted team member has the self-awareness, they should be sharing those things. They might not even recognize it's due to their introversion. Like I've always known that I respond better when I do so in writing, but it wasn't immediately apparent to me that was because I'm an introvert. That's just how I work best. So ask the question if you're a manager, and if you're the managee, be proactive in sharing that.
Yeah.
And whether it's in general, this is how I'll do my best work, or after a meeting, approach your manager and say, "Hey, would it be okay if I got back to you by the end of the week with my thoughts?"
Love.
So you're requesting that.
Yeah, that's really good. I had a really pretty good sized beauty team in my beauty salon, and cosmetologists that do hair. They're different than estheticians who do facials. They have a different license and they're a different breed. Okay. And I had a mix of them in the team. And I found, as someone who built the team, was nurturing the team, that there was a person that was crazy, amazing, artistic. Like, she's out there in Paris Fashion Week, in New York Fashion Week now, backstage doing all the beauty things for all these models. But she came up to me and she was so scared. And I'm not a scary person. I'm an open book. I made it like I had an open door, but she had the guts as a young 20-something to say, I really have a hard time with all the conversation going on in the salon while I'm with my client. Is it okay if I wear earbuds when I work? And I thought that was, for me, I was like, what? Why wouldn't you want to know what's going on? Because the extrovert head, realizing I have this insanely talented person working with me right now on my team, contributing, amazing. She's great. Not great with her, some of her soft skills were her social interactions were a little awkward because she was so artistic. But I knew that if she could wear her earbuds, she couldn't, she wanted to listen to her own thing. I don't know if it was Mozart. I don't know what was inspiring her, but while she was working, and what we did with that, I don't want to get into, but the fact that she came to me and shared that was eye-opening to me, realizing here I thought all these hairstylists who are, your hairstylist, they call them a therapist because they talk the whole time and give you therapy, right? And I kind of in the back of my mind thought they just love all the conversation and all of the, the end of the salon. They don't all love that. And I really appreciated and respected her for having the courage to come to me to ask for that. I thought that was amazing. And so if you're listening and you're the person that needs to go to your boss, don't be afraid. I just think that bosses need to, your employer or your whoever is over you, if you're in a corporation or a small business, they need to know. We need to know what makes you tick. And I did Myers-Briggs for assessments for all of my staff. So I kind of had an idea, but the little nuances inside of each personality is what I didn't know. And, earbuds to me while you're working, it never even dawned on.
Right.
So,
And to me, it's like, of course she wanted earbuds.
oh, I can't
Well,
imagine.
good for her.
So yeah, I mean, I love this conversation, and I think you have so much. Like, what are you doing right now? You have so much to offer. Are you running an agency or a company? How are you serving people right now?
Yeah, so I am guiding introverted professionals through two primary ways right now. One is I recently launched an on-demand learning program called the Introverts Leadership Formula. That's part of my business is called I Factor Leadership. So the I factor, right? That's what makes you great as an introvert. The Introverts Leadership Formula, it's self-paced, on-demand program, which many introverts like because you can do it from the comfort of your office or your couch, and it guides introverts to become more powerful communicators, to identify signs and symptoms of introvert burnout and prevent that. So all the things that like you're talking about in the salon, all the noise or the constant interaction. How can you identify as an introvert when your energy is being sucked and you're starting to burn out, and how can you prevent that? And then thirdly, how can you actually ask for a raise or a promotion in a way that taps into your introverted strengths and makes it hard for someone to say no? And along with that, we have small group coaching calls twice a month to answer questions. So that's one way I can support folks. I also have a private coaching program where we do introvert career strategy planning. And that whole program taps into what I mentioned earlier, the notion of your positive core. How can you use the best of who you are as an introvert to really thrive professionally? And then I'm also available to help folks with their Myers-Briggs assessment, to do that and to have one session on what does this mean for how you can be a more powerful communicator, how you can manage conflict, and how you make decisions. So lots of fun stuff.
That's a lot of stuff. So I have links in the show notes where you can go find Stacey, and even on your social media, your LinkedIn, and that way you can find everything she just mentioned. You're going to be able to tap any of those links and access her there. And will this also work for online entrepreneurs? Can they still work? Will the group coaching or any of your products work if they're not out in, corporate world or anything like that?
Oh, 100%. Everything applies to that because we also can get burnt out working from home. If you're on Zoom calls, back to back to back to back all day long, you're going to burn out just in the same way you're going to burn out if you're in an office. So yes, everything applies to whatever type of work environment you have.
I love it. I love it. My introverted new friend, her superpower is
absolutely
you shine. You shine with your innate gifts. I love my introverted friends because they help ground me. We balance each other out. And I think we're all necessary in the world. We're wired this way for a reason. Yep. And I think we don't need to force ourselves to be someone else, someone we're not. I think we're our best when we are who we are naturally. So I just can't thank you enough for sharing. I can't wait to hear and watch. I'm going to follow you on LinkedIn, find out more about, all the things you do. And if you're listening, I hope you'll do the same thing. Stacey, thank you so much for being here. I loved our chat.
Oh, same here, Christine. Thank you for having me.
Did I tell you you were going to love her? Oh, it's such a great talk. I really enjoyed it. And in the show notes, her website is linked, her LinkedIn is linked, and some free resources if you are an introvert and you would like to get some free information on how you can improve your performance at work. Visit the show notes, tap those links. And until next time, my friend, have a fierce, fit, feminine, and fabulous day.